Started. Okay, everybody, good evening. Is the mic working? Audio audible? All okay? It's on. Okay. So my name is Vivek Kaushik. Some of you are already familiar with me. So I have my colleague with me, Sharma sir. We both take public administration optional here at Vajiram and Ravi, right? So the objective of today's workshop is to familiarize you with the subject of public administration so that you can take an informed decision regarding your optional, right? Now, we know that optional plays a very important role in UPSC main examination because the percentage of score in optional out of 500 marks that determines not only your selection in the main examination, but also your final rank, right? So let's start with the introduction of the optional first. Let me tell you what the optional is. Then Sharma sir will explain a topic from the subject, and we will solve a PYQ together, previous year question. And then we will take up your questions, whatever doubts you have, whatever queries, apprehensions you have regarding this optional. Okay. So let's understand first what is this subject. Now you know that government in democracies is elected via elections, right? Now, how government is elected, what functions governments should perform, which type of governments are better, whether parliamentary form of democracies are better, or systems like America are better, or systems like France, which are called as semi-presidential or quasi-parliamentary, are they better? So this all is a subject matter of political science. Political science, right? However, once the policies have been decided, policies have been formulated. For example, what will be the health policy of the country, or what will be the anti-poverty policy of the country, or say the agriculture policy of the country. Once these policies have been decided democratically via the elections by the elected representatives, then these policies would be implemented by a very vast administration, which works under the government, right? Now, for a very long time, the philosophers, the political philosophers, they paid a lot of attention, a lot of time only to this part of the state. That means how the government should be elected, how democracy should be practiced, how elections can be held, what are different types of democracies. For example, procedural democracy, substantive democracy, deliberative democracy. Then what should be the objectives of the government? How should the constitution be? Who should be a citizen? Who should have voting rights? So all these are primarily political questions, and they were examined by the subject of political science. But then in 1887, something landmark happened, and that was the father of public administration is called Woodrow Wilson. You will study him in history classes also, because he played a crucial role at the end of First World War. So Woodrow Wilson, who was also American president, he wrote an essay, and this essay was published in the year 1887. In this essay, he argued that for a very long time, we have debated enough about political questions. The questions I gave you example. For example, what is the best constitution? Is democracy the best form of government? If yes, how democracy should be practiced? Who should be eligible to vote, right? What should be the policies of the state, of the country? All these are political questions which are decided by the government. But then Woodrow Wilson argued that once you have decided these policies, it is time to efficiently, effectively implement those policies. And it is whose job? It is the job of the administration. So Woodrow Wilson, in his essay, argued that we have not given sufficient attention. We have not given sufficient emphasis to the subject of administration. Our entire focus, starting from, let us say, Plato and then Aristotle. So Aristotle is the father of political science. After Aristotle, we have a lot of scholars, Machiavelli, modern scholars, Thomas Hobbes. All these focused on this part, but not on this. So in this essay, he laid the foundation, he laid the basis of a new subject called a subject of public administration. So one thing now you realize that as a subject, as a field of study, public administration is a relatively new subject. Because before this essay, you can say that in all the American universities, public administration was studied as a part of political science. In fact, even today, in many of the Indian universities, the departments of political science, they deal with subject of public administration. That is why the syllabus of public administration is much brief as compared to other subjects, because it's a new subject, it's a nascent subject. Now the question is, what do we study in this subject, right? What we study is the entire public administration. For example, let's say if we talk about Indian public administration, Indian public administration, right? It is made up of multiple components. For example, we have a number of ministries and departments of Government of India. We have a number of offices of Government of India. For example, we have Cabinet Sachivalay, Cabinet Secretariat. Then let us say Prime Minister's office is a separate institution. Then we have many specialist bodies like we have Niti Aayog, right? So all these bodies together make up the Indian public administration. Now the question is, if Indian public administration has to achieve its goals, and what can we say are the goals? In very simple words, the goals are public policy implementation, public policy implementation. And via this implementation, we want to achieve the goals which are enshrined, the goals which are given in the Constitution of India. So let's say Indian preamble of the Constitution. So you all know it says what? We, the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic, and to give to all citizens what? Justice, equality. So those are the objectives of the Constitution. In fact, you guys, as part of public administration, your job will also be what? To accomplish these objectives of the Indian Constitution. The question is, how can we accomplish these objectives effectively? For that, you have to improve, you have to reform Indian public administration. For example, you have to work upon, let us say, how to make administration more efficient. Efficiency means what? Simple sense, output per unit of input. Like in your case, as a UPSC aspirant, you should be an efficient aspirant. What does that mean? That whatever you are giving as input, for example, you are giving your time, you are giving the most golden period of your age, you are in the prime of your youth, you are giving your energy, you are giving your money, you are giving a lot of resources. So for everything you are putting in, what is the result that you are getting? For example, what if I study for 12 hours every day? But in those 12 hours, I keep checking my phone, I keep checking my social media web, profile. In that case, my efficiency is not going to be very good. Maybe my output in terms of study will be, let us say, only 8 hours. That is why we say na, that as UPSC aspirant, always focus on quality of your study, not the quantity. Quantity can be 12 hours every day, but what if the efficiency is low? So somebody who studies for only 8 hours every day, but is highly efficient student, can cover more syllabus, can cover more chapters than you. Same way, the Indian public administration has to be efficient. So whatever we are putting in, let us say in terms of resources, what is the welfare that you are achieving in the country? What is the output of that? So we have to work towards improving Indian public administration. For that, what do we study? For example, we study the structure of Indian administration. We study the personnel of Indian administration. Personnel means what? The employees, the staff. So let's say Indian Central Public Administration has close to 25 lakh employees, right? And you all know we divide the employees of Indian Public Administration into 4 groups. So we have Group D, Group C, Group B, and Group A officers, right? So via this examination, UPSC recruits only the Group A officers, the highest, right? So tell me something, can the Indian public administration be efficient if these personnel, 25 lakh personnel of Indian public administration, they are recruited in a very unscientific manner? No. So to begin with, imagine if all of you are being recruited in a very unscientific manner, then will it be fair if I expect Indian administration to be very efficient? No. What if, let us say, your recruitment is scientific, but your training is poor? It's unscientific. What if the workforce, 25 lakh employees, what if they are not motivated? So all these aspects of personnel administration, we study in paper 1. So starting from recruitment, training of civil servants, motivation of civil servants, grievances of civil servants. Was if you as a whole have some complaints regarding your service, regarding your promotion, your salary, your transfer, your leaves, your further training. Maybe some of you want to go abroad for your further education. So do the rules of the government allow you? The answer is yes, they allow you, but you can have some complaints regarding that. So all these we study in personnel administration. Then let us say we study about the finances of Indian public administration. So we have a chapter called financial administration and financial management, right? So all this what I explained to you in brief is the subject matter of paper 1 of public administration. So paper 1 of public administration talks about the subject in general, not about India, subject in general. And then all these concepts, when we apply to paper 2, it becomes Indian public administration. So if you have seen the syllabus, I think you have a copy of. Acha, haan, okay. Okay. So you all must have seen this copy of syllabus, right? Okay. Yes. Now let me open this handout which you all have got. So read this handout. We have given some arguments why public administration is one of the preferred optionals in UPSC examination. For example, one obvious reason is that it can be chosen by students of all backgrounds. So whether you have engineering background or medical science or you are a science graduate, you can study this subject. It's an arts, humanities subject, so it can be chosen by anybody. Second reason is it has a good amount of overlap with other topics of general studies. Let me show you that comparison. So go to the last page. Okay. Okay. So paper 1 of public administration has a total of 12 units or 12 chapters. Let us look at them very briefly, one by one. The first chapter is introduction, which gives you introduction, as the name tells you, of public administration, right? From general studies point of view, it does not have much overlap, although even this chapter has some concepts like good governance. It has a topic called good governance. And you all know this is a topic important for GS also. Coming to paper 2, chapter 2, this is regarding administrative thought. What is administrative thought? Administrative thought means, see, any subject is made up by its scholars, right? Those people who have given certain well-known, well-accepted, well-researched theories and ideas. For example, if I'm a geographer and if I give a theory of geography, then I have contributed to the subject of geography, right? Same way in public administration, there have been some thinkers, some scholars who have given their thoughts. Thoughts regarding what? How can public administration be made more efficient? How can it achieve its objectives? For example, let's say there is a scholar called Max Weber. He gave his theory of bureaucracy. Interestingly, from Max Weber's theory of bureaucracy, UPSC has asked a question in paper 4, ethics paper, right? What was the question? According to Max Weber, bureaucracy has certain qualities. One of them is that you have to always remain impersonal in your functions. What does that mean? As a bureaucrat, while performing your functions, your personal emotions personal sentiments, personal preferences, personal thoughts cannot influence performance of your functions. You have to strictly work according to the rules. So if I'm a common man, you are the DM of district, I come to you with some request, you will deal with my request as per the rules. It's not about whether you like my request or not, what is your thinking, that should not influence your decision, right? So UPSC asked in paper 4, can the same concept be applied in private life of people? In private life, should I behave impersonally? Impersonally. Yes. In my official life, I have to be impersonal. But in my private life, should I be impersonal? With my friends, my family? No. It means you cannot combine together the ethics and values of bureaucracy with people's personal ethics and values. These are two separate things. This UPSC asked in paper 4, right? Then third chapter is administrative behavior, and this also doesn't have any overlap with GS. Now come to chapter 4, organizations. This chapter has some overlap with general studies. For example, it has topic like public-private partnership, right? Now, this is a topic which is important for general studies, right? Then we have accountability and control. This topic has a lot of overlap with GS. For example, it has topics like right to information. It has topics like citizen charter. Citizen charter. It has topics like role of parliament in holding the administration accountable. So can the parliament hold administration directly accountable? The answer is no. Whom can parliament hold accountable? The ministers, the political executive. But then these political executive, the ministers, they hold whom accountable? The bureaucrats. It means parliament can indirectly hold the administration accountable. Similarly, judiciary can hold administration accountable. For example, as a civil servant tomorrow, if you perform your duty in such a manner that my fundamental rights have been violated. So what can I do? You all know I can use Article 32 and file a writ petition where? In the Supreme Court. Then the court will hold you accountable. Bhai, you are a civil servant, this was your job, what are you doing? You can't violate somebody's fundamental rights. So judiciary also holds administration accountable. It controls the administration, right? Next unit we have administrative law, which has topics like delegated legislation. Delegated legislation. Have you heard of this concept? No? In brief, legislation, you know, is lawmaking job. It is whose job? Legislature, parliament. But the fact is that parliament is so overburdened in modern times that parliament cannot make every law with all the details required. Yes, parliament represents the people. It knows what the country needs, what the people demand. It knows that. Accordingly, parliament will make a law, but it's not possible that the law contains all its details. So what the parliament usually does, it will make a law, it will make a legislation in a broad framework and then delegate the power to executive to make detailed rules. This concept is called as delegated legislation. Like recently, the rules regarding CAA were in news, if you remember, and they just came into force before Lok Sabha elections. So we all know CAA allows citizenship to people of 6 communities who come from 3 countries, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Bangladesh, even if they have stayed in India illegally for at least 6 years. So rules regarding this came into force just before the Lok Sabha elections. Now, who made these rules? The answer is executive, Ministry of Home Affairs. This concept is called as delegated legislation. So it's in GS also, in polity also you will study this, in parliament chapter, and we have this in the administrative law, right? 7th chapter is comparative public administration. As the name tells you, here we carry out a comparison of Indian public administration vis-a-vis other countries, right? For example, last year itself, 2023, we had a question in paper 1, public administration, that in India, and the comparison was with France, that in France, the ministers are not allowed to hold any other position, but it is only customary. It is not written in the French constitution. So compare this with the Indian system. So it was basically a comparison of India and France. India and France. Now, if you have seen the syllabus of GS, paper 2, there is a topic in syllabus which says comparison of Indian constitution with that of other countries. With France, UPSC in general studies has asked 2 questions so far in last few years. The first question was last year, compare the election process of Indian president and the French president. And why was this question asked? Because the same year we had Madam Draupadi Murmu elected as the president, the same year France also had a new president. So UPSC asked comparison, please compare the election methods. And then 5-6 years ago, UPSC asked the question, at what can France learn from Indian secularism? So France also follows secularism. We are also a secular country. It's given in preamble. But what can France learn from Indian secularism? For example, at that time, actually an attack had happened in France somewhere, and France has a strict policy of no religious symbols in public place. For example, if I'm a Sikh, I may not be allowed to wear a turban. If I'm a Christian, I may not be able to have that cross which is visible in my neck, or a Muslim woman may not be allowed to wear that burqa. So anything which shows your religious inclination, you cannot wear it in public place. That is French secularism. Whereas in India, that is not prohibited. You can do that. So the question was, what can France learn from Indian secularism comparison? Right? Then comes development dynamics. This is regarding the development administration. That what role administration plays in bringing socio-economic development. Next comes personnel administration. This is regarding the personnel in public administration, which I told you, starting from recruitment of personnel, training of personnel, right? How to keep them motivated, motivation of personnel. Then disciplinary action against personnel. Like recently, there was an IAS officer who was accused of getting into the system by forged certificates. So against her, disciplinary action has to be taken, and the biggest disciplinary action can be what? Dismissal from service. Dismissal. So when any public servant is dismissed from service, that means what? That particular job is gone. Of course, it's terminated. But when you are dismissed, it also makes you ineligible for any further employment under the central or state government. So it is considered the biggest form of punishment by the central government. The next biggest is removal. Removal. So let's say in present case, most likely she is going to be what? She is going to be dismissed, which means not only she will lose her present job as an IAS officer, but she will be forever disqualified for any other government job under center or states. So this all comes under what? Personnel administration. And I'm sure you all know that we have a ministry also in Government of India, which is called Ministry of Personnel, which has a department called Department of Personnel and Training, DOPT. You guys will have a lot of relationship with this department. Like your medical exam is done by DOPT. Your service allocation after result is done by DOPT, right? And you all know this ministry is directly under whom? Under the Prime Minister, right? Okay. Then we have public policy, as the name tells you, simple. Techniques of administrative improvement. This has a big overlap with polity. It has topics like e-governance. Topics like e-governance, which is a topic in polity also. Last is financial administration, which has a good overlap with your Indian economics, GS. For example, what is the role of monetary policy in economy? What is the role of fiscal policy in economy? Different types of budgets that we have, the role of Ministry of Finance in budget, etc., etc., right? Okay. Paper 2 is entirely Indian administration, and it will definitely have a lot of overlap with your general studies papers. Like chapter 2, the chapter name is Constitutional Framework. It overlaps with polity. Then we have PSUs, which overlap with Indian economics. Union government and administration is completely Indian polity, right? We have planning, state government. This is very interesting. District administration. So here you will study topics like the role of district collector, the role of district collector in administration, the various reforms which have been brought in the office of district collector, right? Or what reforms should be brought in the office of district collector. Last year, we had a very interesting question that I think you all know that IAS officers, they undergo their foundation course in Labasna, and then they undergo their professional training also at Labasna. After that, they go to the field and they have the first-hand experience of administration. Then they come back to Labasna. Therefore, this mode of training is called sandwich training. So what we do, we have first phase of training, professional, then they are sent to fields for a couple of months, where they are attached with a DM and they closely observe how the DM operates, right? This is also called apprentice style of training, where you learn the art of the game by staying with a senior of that game. So DM is your senior, so you are like a trainee officer. So you stay with him, you learn the art of the game, you come back to Labasna, and then the batchmates share their experience on the field, right? Now, last year UPSC asked the question that is there a need to change the district training format of the IAS officers, right? So this is chapter, right? Then we have one full-fledged chapter on civil services, right? Topics like All India Services, what are they? Central Civil Services, what are they? Political rights of civil servants. Political rights. For example, do civil servants have political right to contest elections in India while they are in service? No, they can't. Civil servants in France have that right. In fact, interestingly, in France now, civil servants can leave bureaucracy, they can join active politics, stay in politics, and then they can go back to bureaucracy. That is why France has had prime ministers who were former bureaucrats, right? But in India, it's not allowed. As long as you are in the services, you do not have a right to contest the elections. So the topic is, what are the political rights of civil servants? For example, do they have the political right to vote in elections? They can't contest, but can they vote? Yes, they can vote, subject to a condition. What is it? They cannot disclose their vote. As a common man, I can stand on the roof and shout that I have voted for XYZ political party. But if you are a civil servant, you can vote, but you have to keep your vote secret. This is a limitation on civil servants. So they don't have the political right to disclose their vote. Do they have the political right to go on strike? Have you ever seen IAS officers on strike? No. Do they have trade unions, IAS officers? No. They may have IAS Officers Association, which is purely a welfare association, but they don't perform any political activities, right? So this is civil services. Then financial management, administrative reforms, as the name tells you. Rural and urban local government. This is again complete polity. This is like 73rd Amendment of Constitution and 74th. Panchayats and municipalities, right? Okay. You all have seen the series, the Panchayat series, right? So who was the Sarpanch of that Gram Fulera? That lady. But on behalf of that lady, who was performing all her functions? The husband. This is a reality. Such husbands are called Panchayat Patis. So you will study this in rural development. Ki bhai, we have reserved 1/3 seats for women in panchayats. So only they can contest. But when they contest and they win elections, they become panchayat members. Do they really participate in panchayat activities, or on their behalf, their husbands perform the activities, right? Then we have law and order administration. This is a very interesting chapter, one of my favorites when I was a student. It deals with things like police, functions of police in India, problems of police in India, the various reforms that we are trying to bring in police, the role of various central paramilitary forces, Central Armed Police Forces. For example, UPSC has asked a question on CBI. That what role CBI plays in law and order in India. And you all know CBI is always in news. The recent incident, CBI has taken over the investigation. Kolkata incident, the High Court gave investigation to, again CBI. So what is CBI? Its origins, its powers, a very interesting chapter. Last is significant issues in Indian administration, various issues in the Indian administration, right? So I think now you have got a fair idea of the subject. So I will pass on the mic to Sir now, and then towards the end, we will take up the questions, whatever you may have regarding the subject. Please, sir.
नोटपैड खोल देते हैं. All apps. Very good evening, everyone. Is it audible, clear? Voice is clear? Okay. So very good evening. Myself, Viren Sharma, as already sir has informed about it. And we will be now discussing it in a generalized way. Sir already have taken the technical terms from the syllabus of public administration. So I will take this initiative to make it further simplify that this entire paper of the PubEd divided into just two parts, as sir has already explained. Paper 1, that is about theories and concepts. So that gives a foundation, how the administration has to function, how the organizational principles are there. That means the paper 1 help you to understand managerial skills, administrative skills, how to get things done. Most important is that, how to get things done. Because as a district collector, or even at a higher level as a director, cabinet secretaries, they all have to get the things done from other. And that needs managerial skills or the management skills. That's why those portions are, as already have explained, about personnel administration, financial administration, administrative theory, administrative behavior, that is there. And their application in India will help you to understand Indian administration. And as per the syllabus discussion, this Indian administration part will have the maximum overlapping with your polity and governance. So just to give a feel of this subject, just to understand how overlapping is there and how we are able to apply our knowledge of maybe polity governance in PubEd, or use PubEd's knowledge in the polity governance, we are just discussing one small topic so that it will be an idea that what is the level of overlapping. And with respect to this, we will bring a small PYQ also, so that this kind of myth can also be resolved, that the PubEd questions are too vague and PubEd questions are more twisted. There are statements and we have to understand context of the statement. Answer will remain that only which you study as a theory. That's an idea. And for that purpose, we are discussing just a small topic from union, government and administration only, which you all generally also study within the GS paper. And that will be helpful in order to make a wider understanding with respect to Indian administration, and how this will even help to write a better answer within the polity and governance. And in fact, it is very common practice of the PubEd student that when they are studying PubEd, and they are having their Indian administration notes or the register, they use that part for even studying their polity. Means except that fundamental rights and the citizenship areas, the first three parts of the constitution, rest all is a syllabus for the PubEd as well. That much is the level of overlapping. And as already sir told you, personnel administration and civil services in India, that type of topics are more suitable for ethics paper. And if you can develop good understanding of management portions of paper 1 and practical application part of paper 2, PubEd, it is quite easy to score more than 150 marks also in GS paper 4. and that could be a bumper. It's like a lottery. Is it? Bumper lottery means 125, 130, anybody can score, but 150 plus. And we have a student 4 years back. His name is Pradeep Kumar, pub-ed optional, and he got 157 marks in the GS paper 4, and the interview only 158. Think about it. Only 158 in the interview, but the theory part, out of 250, he got 157, and there, out of 275, just 158. So can he get a good rank with just 158 marks in the interview? Still, he got All India rank 1. That is the unique character. The people who are at rank 2, 3, they have 200 marks in the interview. But imagine the score in the optional, just 294, which is roughly around 59%, round of 60% that way. But the score in this paper 4, 157, and also polity governance, again 130 plus, has taken this overall average to such a higher level. And that's why understanding of this portion can even help you very significantly to get a very good score in the GS. That's why I'm taking just one small topic to have a feel of this optional, that how this can be useful and relevant for even the GS portions. For paper 2, obviously it's going to be useful from the 150 marks, 250 marks weightage. But this, we are not reading only for 250. We are reading it for somewhere around 400, 500 marks because of the overlapping with the GS portion. Fine. So just taking one small topic that is from Union Government, and you may feel very generalized with this topic. President, and the question which I'm just trying to relate here is the position of president is like grandparents in a joint family. Who may influence the decision, but cannot change. Comment. That's an idea. Means the position of the president is like a grandparent in a joint family who may influence the decision but cannot change the decision. That's the quotation, and it's like comment. So first of all, I have to make my mind whether the statement is correct or not, and accordingly I may have to structure my ideas and the answer according to this. Now we all have studied the polity, and this is a common topic. Polity, this topic has been done. Okay, so what is the situation and what is the position of president in a parliamentary form of government? He's a nominal head of the state. So being a nominal head of the state, can I take a decision on my own, or I have to be abide by the aid and advice given by the Council of Minister? I have to take the ideas of Council of Minister. That means if as a common layman I start writing, so what I will do, president, joint grandparent, joint family, and will start writing accordingly. We don't have to do this. Understand what is the context of the statement. And the context of the statement is about what is the position of president in a parliamentary democracy. That's an idea. So when we are thinking about answer structure for these type of topic, we will take our overall understanding from position thing. And to structure these type of answer, we will use constitutional provision. Before writing constitutional provision, it is always useful to structure an introduction. That introduction will come from the term parliamentary democracy and constitutional provisions. Do we have any constitutional provision which says that president is the nominal head of the state? The GK test only verbally, and I can ask question in this way only because you have studied polity. So I may have a liberty of asking more question in comparison to Vivek sir. He has to explain and I will use that application in my portions. That's the one. And that's how you develop interlinking between paper 1 and paper 2. That's an idea. And this is one of the ideal way for even having a quick revision things. So is there any article we say there shall be a president of India? That is 52. So when we are writing this kind of answer, we may use this constitutional article 1 as you are saying 52. Any another article which can also be useful for understanding this relationship apart from 52? One answer has came 74 also. Any another article if you can apply? Just GK thing. Because I will have to use your knowledge also to further structure and polish according to the requirement of the public. And that is why our overlapping part will strengthen our polity. That's the purpose, is it? So in this simple kind means a structure, not just 2 articles, we will have approximately 5 articles. And these 5 articles, one after 52 is also relevant to mention 53, also relevant to mention 75, also relevant to mention 77, and one more 78. If we cover these, let the question come anywhere in polity, either in the pubed, our answers are going to be conceptually and constitutionally appropriate. That's a simple thought process. That means what these 4 articles or 6 articles are talking about, just a small synopsis. We will have to prepare notes also accordingly. As a result, what happened? This article 52 says there shall be president of India. So existence of office will be coming in from article number 52. All the powers of union shall be vested in the office of president. So executive powers of the union are vested in whom? Vested. So we as a common layman use the term power, but the power which is vested in an office becomes authority. So that is not your, you can't be a dictator on your own. You can't have an arbitrariness के जैसा मेरा मन करेगा वैसे run करेंगे. You can't run the administration by your whims and fancies. You have to work in accordance with these constitutional provisions. So all the power of union shall be vested in the office of president, and that is mentioned by article number 53. Plus, in order to perform these functions, because we are a parliamentary democracy, so article 74 is equally important, and that says there shall be a council of minister with PM as the head. And why it is needed? To aid and advise the president in the exercise of his executive function. So whatever work president has to do, it will be doing on the aid and advice of council of minister. And if we add just these 3 articles only, still we are able to say yes. But any kind of appointment which is done by the president, that means appointment and removal of council of minister, will come from article number 75. So it is the president who will appoint the prime minister, and on the advice of prime minister he will appoint the other ministers in the council. That means even to appoint other ministers, president is acting on the advice of the prime minister. But when he has to appoint prime minister, can he use his discretion? Only if there is hung Lok Sabha. Otherwise, he will be working on the basis of the leader of majority party. And in case of hung Lok Sabha, then he may use single largest party, second largest party, because that time maybe the advice is not available. Otherwise, in general, he will be using all the single largest party for the purpose of appointment of a prime minister. And when he's using his discretion, he's not acting on any someone's advice. Otherwise, as per constitutional provision, he is calling the leader from the largest party, and that party member is going to be appointed as a prime minister. After that, advice will be available, because once you appoint the prime minister, council of minister comes into existence. That is why when he resign also, entire council of minister goes out of the office, swim and sink together. That type of terminologies are there. So if PM resign, all other minister don't have to resign. You are automatically out. It's that simple thought process. And once PM appointed, council of minister comes into the existence. So he's an arc of the cabinet. We have to draw a circle. So we need what? A small arc. PM is that arc. And on his advice, the entire strength of the council of minister will be decided. How many new ministers are required? How many total number of ministers are required? Those kind of things are generally regulated by article number 75. Plus, if a person who is not even a MP still can be appointed as a minister, those kind of provisions are again part of the same article number 75. Further, I ask you a question. Is there any article which makes the president nominal head? And your answer was no. And my answer is yes. Article 77 is that article. The entire business of the government will be done in the name of the president. Entire business of the government of India will be conducted in the name of the president. And from here, we will get this idea that he's the nominal, because in his name, the work has to be done. But who will be doing this work? The work will be actually done by council of minister. Plus one more article we can use, and that is article 78. It is the duty of the PM to communicate. Imagine, the concept is communicate or inform. So who is actually taking the decision? Council of Minister is taking the decision, and that's why the constitution says it is the duty of the prime minister to communicate the president about affairs of the union, decisions of the union, or proposal for legislation. So if we are planning to make a new law, we have to inform. We have taken a decision, we have to inform. And by taking these articles as a base, we are able to say, yes, whatever president has to do will be coming on the aid and advice of council of minister. But here the second part, who may influence the decision but cannot change the decision. So once these simple discussions are over, with help of these article side, we can add now some amendments. We can add now some orders in order to further justify the second part. And in this context, 2-3 amendments are very relevant. 2-3 amendments are very relevant. One of them is, means in order to support this answer, we can use constitutional amendments. 3 are relevant. 24th CAA 1971, opposite of this 42nd CAA 1976, and 44th CAA 1978. 3 amendments will be relevant in order to further support your opinion and your ideas. In this context, this amendment 24 CAA, what it has done, it amended Article 368. 368 was amended by this, and they have added one more clause there. And the clause says, if any constitutional amendment bill has been passed by the parliament and it is presented to the president for his assent, the president is bound to give his assent. So what happened to the returning of any bill? Not applicable in those scenario. As a result, he can't even influence that decision. He is going to act on the advice of the Council of Ministers with respect to the constitutional amendment bill. So it made what? Binding upon president for constitutional amendment bill, that he has to give assent whenever the bill is presented to his office in order to give assent as per Article 111. Plus this amendment, 42nd Amendment Act 1976. It is important because according to this relationship, one article was amended. And that article was this, 74. Usually what is mentioned in the constitution is there shall be a council of minister with PM as the head to aid and advise the council of minister. After that, some words were added. And those words are who shall act in accordance with such advice. That means it is making it completely binding. Whatever advice given by the Council of Minister, that is going to be binding upon the president, and this Article 74 was amended by adding these words. As a result, if we are giving you advice to pass a bill, you are supposed to pass. Technically making the president like a rubber stamp. What happened to the dignity of this office? Will be reduced and made president's position more like a rubber stamp. That's why the context, again, rubber stamp, he's not becoming means completely a rubber stamp, but the term has been used in the again contextual way, that the position of the president became just like a mere rubber stamp. That means he cannot even withhold, he cannot even refuse, I don't want to sign on this paper. That is not even going to happen. And in that context, dignity to this office has been attempt made were to re-establish, and that is done by another amendment act, which is the third. And that third says what? That the president, again, they have added a proviso here. And what is this proviso? President may send advice back for reconsideration. Once. So one time advice has been given to you, you can send the advice back with or without message. So when you are sending the advice back for reconsideration, it is actually making this thing happen. Who may influence the decision but cannot change the decision. That's why the context is what? The context is about what is the position and what are the powers of president. Can the president apply these powers on his own? Or is the president require someone in order to perform these functions? And for that purpose, we are using one conceptual side, philosophy of parliamentary democracy. But most important is our Indian Constitution's provision. And if we start using the constitutional articles in writing our answers, it will authenticate your each and every explanation. And not just that, imagine what will happen to your polity answers also. As a common layman, as a GS student, you may study out of these 6, maybe 3 articles. That's a way. But if you have all the 6 articles in your copy of PubMed, and you are using all the 6 articles in writing even the polity answer, then why won't, as an examiner, I will give you marks? What is the reason left for me? You have brought everything from the constitution, you have brought a simple explanation, and not just this, to authenticate your idea, you have even brought what? A constitutional amendment. So as a result, the same answer can give you a much higher score. That's the logic. And that is why if that thought process we are able to develop, we can have a very good prosperity options, and to have this clearing of this exam in a limited span of time with this type of approaches. And that's why the idea was this only, that it's a common topic. You study in polity, you study in PubMed, but how to utilize this knowledge And if this is you have utilized here in PubEd, you will be better positioned to utilize the same to write even the polity answer. That in a parliamentary form of government, the president is abide by aid and advice given by the Council of Minister. So by till here, now I am going to say the same idea that yes, president is abide by the aid and advice of Council of Minister. However, now comes the last part, that is to balance this view. The balance of this view is there are few discretion or where the advice is not binding. Do we have any such options when the advice of the Council of Minister is not binding? What are those? If one or two example can come from our class. Pardoning power of president. He act on the advice. Application of pocket veto and suspensive veto. So imagine from where this suspensive veto have emerged. From where the suspensive veto have emerged? Suspensive veto have emerged by the 44th Constitutional Amendment Act. So application of pocket veto and suspensive veto in case of an ordinary bill or a financial bill, that will be outcome of discretion. And from where it has emerged? 44th Amendment Act. So even your discretion become authentic as per the articles explanation and the amendments explanation which you have included in your answer. Not just that, the president has to summon either or both the houses within a period of, the gap between two sessions shall not exceed 6 months. What if the Council of Minister is not advising to call? 6 months have gone and still they are not calling the session. Then he has to use discretion to call the session. But remember, this is extraordinary. Usually in 1 year you have 3 sessions and gap between 2 sessions is 2 months or 3 months. So usually the Council of Minister will give advice and the president will summon the house or end the sittings of the house. So he will act on aid and advice. But if required, then only he is going to utilize his own discretion, and adding 1 or 2 discretionary points will make this answer balance. Plus, in case of disqualification of MPs on office of profit related matter, if you hold any office of profit as an MP or MLA, you can be disqualified. So disqualification of MP for office of profit will be decided by the president, but advice will come from Election Commission of India. Advice will come from Election Commission of India instead of the Council of Minister, and those ideas will be taken into consideration as per not binding concepts. And what if there is a coalition government, like current government is a coalition government? Because the largest party is having only 240 seats. So if their coalition partners withdraw the support, then government can come into minority, and then the president will ask them face a no confidence motion, and unfortunately they lost the no confidence motion, and then they advise the president dissolve Lok Sabha and declare fresh elections. Is that advice binding? No. Again, president will use his discretion and give opportunity to second largest party to form the new coalition government to avoid the elections. So including out of these 4 examples, any 1, 2, maximum 3 can be suitable in order to balance your answer. That president may influence the decision, but president cannot change the decision. And there are some rarest option only when he is using his discretion. Otherwise, in general, the president is bound by aid and advice given by the Council of Ministers, and that way, by using all these different points, we can structure this answer. If it is 20 marker, you have a liberty to explain more, because we get around 4 pages and we can answer in 3.5 maximum to save time and energy. But if it is a 10 marker question, 1.5 page only we are going to write, and writing all these facts in 1.5 page will be a challenging task. That's why synopsis. is one of the best idea to structure your notes also. And by this kind of strategy, you can always have articles also on your fingertips, and that can enhance our wider understanding with the polity. And if you have a good understanding of polity, it will even help you in long run with the ethics paper, case studies. That's a concern, because as sir has already discussed earlier, that can the civil servant join politics? No. And sir already said that, see, can they also tell that to which party they have voted? No, because if they tell, it amounts to campaigning. It amounts to what? Campaigning towards a political party. And as per civil service conduct rules, it is the duty of a civil servant to even stop their family members also to participate in the active politics. Even if their spouse, their children are going to contest election, it is as a civil servant my duty to stop them from participating in the politics. But who can control the spouse? Whatever gender, it's a vice versa option. And if they have decided to contest, then I have to make an official declaration that they are not under my control and they will be contesting election, and I will act according to the directions given by my department. But the official house where we are residing, there can be no party symbol, no flag of any political party. Even if the spouse is contesting election, political party's flag cannot be on the official residence of the civil servant. And you cannot go to demand vote even for your spouse. What happened to the 7 births and the oath taken to support each and every time in good and bad times? That's your personal oath. It has to do nothing with your official duties and function. And that's why ethical challenges, ethical dilemmas, and for that purpose, this one understanding of the civil service conduct rule can enhance the better understanding for ethics and related case study. That's why the governance part can be gradually improved on a much stronger side if we can develop a sound understanding for the Indian administration's portion. I hope we can simplify now that statement-based question, that what is this all about? Same condition and just a statement change. Prior to the passage of 42nd and 44th Amendment Act, President was more assertive. Prior to the passage of 42nd and 44th Amendment Act, President was more assertive, because that time only two options. Either he can withhold assent or either he can give assent. Suspensive veto and nothing was there, because from where they have came, they are an outcome of these two amendments. And one amendment is hidden in this, which has not been given in the question, but you should include. And that amendment is 24. And if you have to add current affair, then one amendment is equally important here, which even I have not used initially, but you must use also as a current affair, 104th. What it is related to? पहले तो यही पूछ लेना चाहिए. What it is related to 104? Extension of reservation for the SCs. That has been extended by 10 years. किसी के लिए end भी किया है. That part is important. It has ended the reservation for the Anglo-Indian community member who used to nominate them in Lok Sabha. So what happened to that power? It is restricted. I should add this fact also in the answer, and answer will become what? To the part, and according to current application, you have added the current affairs also. Just that simple. That the president can nominate 2 members of Anglo-Indian communities in the Lok Sabha if they are not adequately represented. But now that power has been ended. Which article talks about such reservation of Anglo-Indian? Which article is amended to end this? वो 2 article और add करते हैं facts में. That's how the concept, and that's how, see, you don't write article, it's a general answer. Add article, it becomes what? More technical and conceptually correct. So imagine 2 articles, one this I was asking that under which article this reservation exists. That comes from 331 for Anglo-Indian member in the Lok Sabha, and governor also can do in the State Assembly, Article 333. And both of these powers are now restricted by 104th Amendment Act because it has amended Article 334. 334 says the reservation shall extend for 10 years. Then it was amended to 20, 30, 50, 70, now 80. So that amendment is 80 years is the time period for reservation for SC and ST. But for Anglo-Indian, it's now ceased to exist. So if you add this information in the same question, it will become what? The application of current affair in your answers. Otherwise, by mugging up, people will remember these two from the mugging up of the polity thing. And also out of these articles, they may maximum remember is this one, and possibly this one as a GS understanding. But as an optional understanding, you will remember approximately 9 to 10 articles with respect to this power only. And that is where your PubMed can play a role in order to enhance your understanding. And most important, after selection, anybody has to work as what? As sir already told you, public administration is government in action. So government will be a discussion club without administrative machinery. So this is how we deal with this subject in our classes. That's why the idea was to give a feel over the subject. Before we further move ahead, we can have our doubts clearances, a question which is related to optional you wanted to clarify, or any another idea which you wanted to even know from us. Because the current discussion was confined to the conceptual part and also the importance of this optional with respect to GS overlapping. Because sometimes it's in our mind who can take this optional subject. Anybody from any field can study. And most of the time, the science students, engineering, and other one, they all can take these options because it's just a humanities subject and does not require any subject matter specialization. So you're free to ask your doubts. Sir and me will try to answer to the satisfaction level. I hope we are clear with the question itself. Is it that approach is clear for us? Okay.
Yes. Any doubts? Yes. Anybody?
Sir, you can only make your question and answer them. That is more appropriate because sometimes they have hesitation to ask.
Is asking, sir, is public administration optional more static oriented or dynamic oriented? See, Vaibhav, the paper 1 of public administration we can call definitely as static. So administrative theory part, the concepts of public administration are never going to change. The scholars, whatever ideas they have given, we will study exactly those ideas. But the paper 2 of public administration, the Indian administration, is definitely a dynamic part. You will have to study the concepts as they exist in the constitution and political system. And then to improve your answer, to add value to your answer, you have to add examples from current affairs. So that makes paper 2 more dynamic in nature. So it's a mix of both. Yes, Omkar, which one has more overlapping in GS, political science or PubMed? Omkar, both of the optionals have a good overlap, but I would say political science has a higher because of the IR part. IR also is covered in pol science. However, remember that also makes it quite dynamic and challenging in nature. It's an advantage also, but there is a challenge also over there.
In fact, you can take in this way that the syllabus of the political science is much wider than what is the syllabus of PubMed. And if we can be, sometime we draw that Venn diagram kind of thing. So this is like political science syllabus, and that is like a PubMed syllabus. And that's a correct diagram in terms of the size. And this part is overlapping part with the GS. That's a concern. Means they are administrative thinkers of PubMed. They are just around 20. But the political science thinkers, they are much, much wider. They are large in number. And that increases your efforts. And what is the weightage for optional? This also you will study for 500. This also you will study for 500. Is it? As sir has said that it will be helpful for 250. Why? Because GS paper 2 will be covered by this and IR will also be covered by the political science. But please remember, where from polity governance, we will cover around 175. But who will also cover more for ethics? Ethics will be around 180 plus. Because all the 6 case studies, you will answer according to administration, not according to politics. And that approach will help you to score more marks in comparison to that optional part. And not just this, GS paper 3, this is 4 and 3. The 3 is the most dynamic paper, where some portions from GS economics we have with the PubEd overlapping, as sir was telling you earlier, financial administration, financial management, PSUs, planning, Niti Aayog and those portion will be also there. Security issues, because you will study law and order administration and disaster management related policies. So from that part, approximately 40 to 60 marks weightage is also associated with this PubEd syllabus. That's why our overlapping is not with 3, 1 or 2 part. Our overlapping is in 3 different GS papers. And that's why this is more beneficial than that part. But society have a herd hypothesis. Is it? एक बार एक topper का rank आ गया political science से, तो we also have to take. But I'm telling you the recent one also, rank 2020, rank 1, PubEd, that's also there. So it's not that by taking a particular subject we will get the rank. It's like how you study, how you execute, and accordingly your success and failures are going to be decided. And with respect to this overlapping, this is the GS overlapping. So you are not studying for this 500, maybe this can be also 750 plus. But what about us? Approximately 350 plus marks from the GS and also the optional. So it's going to be 850. And both optional can claim one topic from the essay. They also claim, we also claim, because of the overlapping of the values concepts as well. So that's why it's similarities are there. But still, by studying PubEd, we understand managerial side. We have to work as an administrator, not as a politician. Political science teaches that part, to do politics, to suppress domination, that thought process. But the problem solving approach we develop through managerial skills of public administration. So that can be the solution. Means if you are looking yourself to become a problem solver, then administration can play a positive role. But if you have an aspiration of politics, then obviously PSIR can also play that role to teach the political philosophies rather than the managerial and administrative problem solving approaches. This is the idea. Next session.
Yes, definitely. Why not? By any optional to cover the syllabus, we have to study certain books. So once we complete the classes, you will already have a lot of handwritten classroom notes. Now, to supplement your understanding, to gain confidence, you may choose to read the books or the material which is given to you by the institute.
Even the pink booklets are very useful. They are usually updated every 2-3 years. The pink booklets which are given as a part of syllabus are also updated regularly, so that what if suppose recently 15 Finance Commission reports are there, that's already part of the pink booklet. So that is not available in so many books, but in the pink booklets of the institution, they are already included. So if you want to reduce the workload of books, then you can use alternatively the pink booklets. They are regularly updated. Static part will remain static only. That's a way. So this can also solve this number of books issues. When compared to sociology, PubEd, which is more suitable person without humanities background, and since both subjects are overlapping with GS, yes, sociology have an optional means overlapping with the GS, but not that much as you have with the PubEd. Sociology may help for social issues and social justice. That is fact. Social issues and social justice. That thought process can come from the sociology side. But what about governance side? What about ethics side? That may not be coming from those portions. So in terms of overlapping, this area is having a better means coverage than sociology. That is a fact-based means concept. That's why we gave you syllabus also. that the syllabus 12 units paper 1, 14 units paper 2, total 26 units. Sociology also have almost similar number of units, 24 to 26 only. That number of units are there with the sociology as well. But when it comes to the other portion of application, then do remember this part. I think this information is even on your page number 1 only. Why to choose PubMed is an optional and overlapping part of GS paper 2, GS paper 3, GS paper 4 has been mentioned for this. And syllabus is intentionally given to simplify that what we are saying is also there in the syllabus, so that any as an individual layman, we can have a comparison and we can take this decision on the basis of facts. Rationality is equally important to take any such decision because it's a one-time. It's a one-time decision. Means we don't have to think to change an optional after studying it for 2 months or 3 months. Sometimes people do this. They initially take, means being an engineering student, somebody has taken maths, somebody has taken the other science subjects, and 2 months later, 3 months later, they realize that it's not working because they have to do double work. They have to study optional separately, no overlapping with the GS, and have to study GS also separately. And then after 2 months, 3 months, they realize I'm thinking to change my optional. So before you do this kind of experiment, it is better to listen. It is better to do analysis. Once fees paid, various institution will not refund. So it's better to take these decisions as an informed citizen and take it more rationally after doing this type of analysis of various subjects. That is the purpose. That's why we discuss the topic also, that how the topic are there and how they can be useful for your GS. So take the next question.
Yeah,
Please.
sir. Dijayan has asked a question. Sir, I'm a working aspirant.
Okay.
And have around 5 to 6 hours of work on an average. Will it be a good decision to take public administration as my optional and be able to complete it this year? Vijay, in fact, that makes public administration a very attractive choice for you, because we already mentioned that if we compare the length of the syllabus, public administration has a much lesser syllabus. Not only that, it's a very practical subject. You will study this subject in such a manner that you observe what is happening around you in society. So that makes public administration even more preferable for working aspirants.
Any other?
Which reference should I prefer? As a reference book, you may start, for example, with M. Lakshmikant's Public Administration, not the polity, right? So that book, although it has a lot of facts, but what you do is filter out the facts. For example, definitions, names of authors, books and all, but just study the concepts. You can get a feel of the subject from that book to begin with. Yeah. Structure of what? France. No. It's just one of the 12 units in paper 1. So we have 12 units. One of them is CPA, Comparative Public Administration. So what actually we study in this subject is that earlier the scholars used to give theories regarding administration, how to improve it, without comparing whether that theory will work in the administrations of other countries also. For example, Max Weber, I mentioned, gave bureaucracy model. In fact, his model we are using in many countries, including India. So he was a German. So according to him, bureaucracy model would work there. But then did he compare and check whether that model will equally work well in other administrations also? The answer was no. So in 1960s, the scholars believed that you cannot blindly recommend any model, any theory to any country without realizing that that country may have a different environment. So a particular model of administration can improve, let us say, American administration. It might improve British administration. But the same theory, the same model of public administration may not work in Indian administration. Why? Because environment is different. Indian economy is different, Indian history is different, Indian politics can be different. That is why in 1960s, a new sub-branch emerged, a sub-branch within PubMed. What was that branch? Comparative Public Administration. So here we compare various countries, but not in detail. We just try to understand that how this comparison can help us to give a better theory.
And that was a question of GS, not the optional. What France can learn from India, that was a question in the GS paper too, not in the PubMed. And that was just an application of current affair that we study about presidential election in India and the newspaper also from international events. So for that purpose, this comparative questions can be asked. So when you are aware about India and you have studied in the GS portion, you can compare it more appropriately. That was the example utilized by the sir. So take this query also. Do I need to fluently skilled with knowledge about government schemes and policies for PubMed? Do you study the current affair also for your GS portion? Government schemes, government policies, we have to study. And using those schemes as an example here will give you an edge. We have a unit, public policies. From policy making to policy implementation to policy evaluation, all are the processes. And each and every process has its own advantages and limitations. You use this knowledge of PubMed to write even an answer in the GS on a particular scheme, and that can enhance your understanding from the administration's point of view to write those answers. Like you have heard the term centrally sponsored schemes, is it? So these are usually the schemes formulated by center, but they are on the subjects which are in the state list. So technically the center is interfering with state, but that is the philosophy of cooperative federalism. State may not have resources, so who will help them? Center. So center drafted a policy, and center has to follow universal principle, equality base. So it will be drafted for all the states, and then those states who are willing to participate will join and share the expenditure for implementation. As a state, you have to generate 100 rupee to implement a scheme in your own state. But if you join hands with the center, you just need 40, 60 will come from center, or you can increase the scope. Instead of making the policy for just 20% people, you can make the policy for 50% people. Spend your 100 and take extra money coming from the center and execute also in your state. So that's why the cooperative federalism ideology will be there. So funding pattern, sharing expenditure will be useful for public policy. And there could be a simple question. Discuss the role of panchayat in Poshan Abhiyan. So when you know Poshan Abhiyan and you know what panchayat members can do, link these questions and answer that also in the mains. Because that type of question can be possibly raised even in the interviews also. That do you think there is something to change in these schemes? Because we are making scheme after scheme, but what is the problem in the outcome? What is the possible solution for the future? And that type of idea can come if you study current affair and link with the topics of your PubMed. That type of means understanding will be enhanceful. What is the importance of ARC reports for PubMed as an optional? Even if you don't take PubMed as an optional, you have to study ARC. That is the concern. Administrative Reforms Commission, you have to study even if you don't take this optional. For even crisis management, that is called disaster management. Public order related to security issues. Then union government related to governance. State government, local self-government, RTI and ethics in governance. These are the minimum reports you have to study. And you have to cover all these also with the PubMed paper too. So at relevant topic, we will involve ARC recommendation as a futuristic roadmap solutions. That's why it will become integral to the PubMed syllabus. And we may not have to study it separately. In fact, I was using this example that it is covering 3 GS paper. Why this is covering 3 GS paper? Why not just one paper like polity, this PSIR or any another one? Second ARC was the only reason. They recommended make PubMed as a mandatory optional. Make PubMed as a mandatory subject, and people should study from National Institute of Public Administration. And they should have a degree in PubMed, and then they will be appearing with the civil service exams. And government responded back that, see, we have included already the syllabus of PubMed in GS. That's why paper 2, paper 3, paper 4, all three have the syllabus coverage from the PubMed. And then the government rejected this recommendation, and it is not necessary to make it a pub-ed as an optional, which is mandatory, because indirectly we already have included it in the GS portion. And this is the main reason why you have overlapping with the 3 GS subjects. No other optional have overlapping with 3. They can have with 2, maximum 1, otherwise 2. But this is one where you have a 3 subjects overlapping from mains perspective. And that's why if you cover it in better way, it can enhance your GS coverage. Is it? That's an idea. If any another optional, when mathematics workshop, I can have a pros and cons. Yeah, when you have you can simply compare when you have the mathematics optional workshop. I'm not supposed to criticize any subject. I can just positively present my ideas. That is the most appropriate idea, because all are working in the same organization. So have to manage the interest of all. Is it? And that's what is administration teaching us. There are difference of opinion, but we have to carry all the opinion together. So next, do we have to
look for? I think Akanksha has asked the question. No, Akanksha, we don't have to study all the ministries departments separately. No, that is not required.
Just check the question so that we can decide it. Yeah.
Dijen has asked, is it dynamic or static? Again, I have already answered that question, Dijen. So the paper 1 is largely static in nature. Nothing would change. Paper 2 is, yes, it requires inputs from current affairs, current events. Correct.
From the class, if we have any question, or we are becoming restless to leave, no problem, we can leave. That's all there. But the 5 minutes only needed. After 5, we'll end. So that in case it's possible that your question may be answered indirectly. Is it last talk complete? This question is about Enthro. I wanted to know without any background background. Yeah, it's okay.
Omkar, I think that's an irrelevant question. We are not the best.
Marking trend is appropriate. Marking trend, we are getting a score between 55 to 60% of the marks. That's a marking trend right now. So in fact, if you get even 55% of the marks also, let's say, you get just 275 only out of 500. But this 275 which you have scored will help you in this part, in the GS part. And that's why if you add it, it will be having much better weightage than in comparison to even a 300 marks in any another optional. Think somebody got 300 marks in the optional. So 60% marks. You are getting 55% only. 5% lesser. But this 5% less will be compensated where? In the other 3. As compared to this optional which may have got 300 marks, 60%. But that GS weightage will go down and may adversely affect overall score. That's why I gave you that example. 157 marks in the GS paper 4. And just 158 marks in the interview. And still got rank 1. That is the edge, and that edge will be limited with confined to either this Enthro also don't have that edge. Enthro may be good for 60% scorage. I can't earlier I supposed to avoid the name, but anonymity violated. So it may give you 60% of the weightage, but when it comes to the overlapping with the GS, you have to work separately for your GS portion. So this is up to you that how you want to take your path with overlapping or with 2 parallel approaches, one for GS, one for optional subjects. So in case you're working professional and have limited span of time, you may think about this way, overlapping. If you are daredevil, you can run 2 systems parallelly as well. It's all your choices that how to take these decisions. Marking trend is already done. Next देख लेते हैं कोई और तो नहीं. All done? हो गया है. It's done.
Okay.
Okay then.
Okay, everybody, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your patience for listening.
Thank you.
We will meet again in the classes. All the best. Thank you.